235. Matt Chapman, the big offseason addition, hitting just 183. Teoscar Hernandez hitting just 182. Ramel Tapia, a guy who hit near 300 last year for the Rockies, is hitting 229. And their pitching really has no ace, especially with Hyun-Jin Ryu only pitching in 3 games so far this year and giving up at least 5 runs in 2 of those. Boston has been the biggest surprise, and it's been in a bad way. You would expect the additions they made that they'd be trending more towards a winning team, but instead they're trending towards last place. It's been all Xander Bogaerts, Rafael Devers, and J.D. Martinez on offense. Alex Verdugo is slumping after having a breakout year. Trevor Story struggling coming over from Colorado, and their starting pitchers all have ERAs above 4.3. 2 of them have ERAs north of 5. And another team that doesn't really have an ace. Baltimore, you expected a down year, and that's pretty much what they're going to have. They have power in their lineup, but not much average, and that's going to hurt teams, especially a team that young. It's hard to rely on their rotation as well. It's held together by Jordan Lyles and Bruce Zimmerman, so not a lot to work with for the Orioles right now at the major league level. AL Central, I'm going to start with my Tigers. It's been extremely disappointing. They can't score runs. They're relying on minor leaguers or average major leaguers to repeat career years that they had last year, and that's just not going to fly. Also, 4 of the 5 starters from the rotation are now on the injured list, and it's really hard to overcome that, especially when you don't score runs. They're last in the league in runs, RBIs, home runs, and they're hitting just 223 on the season. There's nowhere they can really turn for major upgrades, major shakeup, but at least for once, the bullpen's actually doing well this year. Cleveland is under 500, but they're playing better than I expected. Their pitchers give up a lot of runs, but the offense is top 10 in average and RBIs. I don't know if that they can keep pace with that. Minnesota returns to the top of the division after being division favorites last year, I believe, but finishing near the bottom of the division. Above average starting pitching, and their team ERA is just 3.33 right now. So the one thing that could hold them back is their offense right now doesn't score a lot, which seems like is the case across baseball so far this year. Kansas City, Andrew Benintendi is hitting over 300 with 16 RBIs, but Hunter Dozier is the only other guy hitting over 250. Pitching staff has been very, very good. Their bullpen is god-awful. The White Sox were expected to win the division this year. The only guys performing to expectations in terms of their offensive lineup are Tim Anderson, the shortstop, and Luis Robert, the outfielder, both hitting near 300. In Anderson's case, over 300 at 328. Yasmani Grandal not cutting it at catcher, hitting just 174. Jose Abreu may be breaking out of the slump a little bit, but he's still hitting only 211. The only other guys who have respectable averages are Gavin Sheets and Andrew Vaughn, and Vaughn has been hurt, so they haven't been able to use him. Dylan Cease, Michael Kopech, and Lucas Giolito have been as great as expected, but they're getting nothing from the other 2 starters in Dallas Keuchel and Vince Velasquez, who both have over 5 ERAs, and their closer, Liam Hendricks, yes, he's getting saves, but his ERA is over 4 right now, so that's pretty high for a guy that you rely on to finish games off for you. Obviously, he'll come lower as he racks up scoreless innings and racks up innings against the runs that he's already recorded, or already been counted for. The AL West, Astros still in the lead, but the Angels have been one of the surprise teams fighting them. LA is among the leaders in batting average, home runs, and they lead the majors in RBIs. Mike Trout is back after an injury-plagued season last year and has 10 home runs already. Ohtani, as a hitter, has 8 home runs. As a pitcher, he's at the 2.78 ERA, which is fantastic. It's not the best on the team, surprisingly, but it's fantastic. They have 6 guys in their lineup with over 20 RBIs. Brandon Marsh and Taylor Ward, the outfielders, have been their biggest surprises. As I said, their pitching, Ohtani does not have the best ERA on the team. That belongs to Jose Barria at 150, and also Patrick Sandoval in 6 starts has a 191 ERA. And rookie Reed Detmers doing all right for himself, a 4.15 ERA as a rookie is not terrible. The thing that could hold them back is they only really have 4 starting pitchers, and not a lot of them have been successful for a full season. Houston, they've had to have Jeremy Pena come up and fill in as shortstop. They've got a low batting average, but lead the majors in home runs. Justin Verlander coming back from Tommy John, it's like he never left. Pitching lights out. He's 5-1, 1.38 ERA through 7 starts. Almost had another no-hitter the other day. Framber Valdez at 2.93 ERA. Garcia, 2.94 ERA. Jake Odorizzi's on the IL now, but 3.13 ERA. Fantastic numbers across the board. Jose Urquidy is going to be the guy at the end of the rotation that needs to step up, but overall their staff has a third best ERA in the majors. Oakland, Seattle, and Texas, not very good. You can kind of see that coming. Oakland, once they traded Chapman and Olsen and Minaya and whoever else they traded, you knew they weren't trying to compete this year. Their ace right now, Frankie Montes, has a 3.6 ERA. It's not a bad ERA, but that's hardly an ace. Their best starter has been Paul Blackburn. Their offense has a bad batting average and not many runs. The Rangers' big free agent moves aren't really paying off. Corey Seager does lead the team in batting average, but he's just hitting .242, and that's in terms of everyday starters. Backup catcher Jonah Heim has quietly been great, hitting .277 the last I looked. The big miss, two big misses really, free agent signing Marcus Semien, one of those big shortstop guys that was out there, has regressed and looks really bad. He's hitting .157 with 0 homers so far this year after hitting over 30 homers last year. The team itself is hitting .219, which is awful. Martin Perez is the only starter with an ERA under 4. John Gray, one of the big free agent additions as a starting pitcher, has a .573 ERA. Garrett Richards, who they signed, probably supposed to be in the starting rotation, didn't make it into the rotation. He's been pitching in relief, and also an ERA approaching 6. Seattle, Ty France has been their best hitter. He's hitting .315, 5 homers, 25 RBIs. Eugenio Suarez leads in home runs. They need more from Mitch Haniger, Jared Kelenic. Those guys are expected to be big contributors, and they're just not doing it. France, Adam Frazier, Julio Rodriguez, and J.P. Crawford have become the respectable bats in that lineup. And the pitching outside of Logan Gilbert has been absolutely awful, particularly Robbie Ray, who's supposed to be their ace, and has just not performed like an ace. In the National League, the Mets have slugged their way to the top. They're weirdly the only team over 500 in that division. They're 4th in the majors in hits, 5th in ERA. It's a nice balance to have. They have at least 6 consistent starters and rotate a few guys in there. Francisco Lindor doesn't have his batting average back up, but he's hitting for power. Pete Alonso also hitting for power. Jeff McNeil, Brandon Nimmo, and Mark Canha from the batting average standpoint have been their best hitters. McNeil last year had a little more power numbers, but his batting average dipped. This year he's returned to hitting over 300 with just okay numbers in the power department. It's a deep lineup that can get even better as the season goes on. The surprising thing on the pitching staff, Max Scherzer should be their number 1 guy, but Chris Bassett is outperforming them right now. Both have great numbers, and they're getting better than expected performances from Carlos Carrasco and Taijuan Walker. Tyler McGill got off to a hot start, but he's cooled off since then. And they have a very good closer in Diaz, who has a 1.68 ERA with 9 saves already. Shockingly, the Miami Marlins look actually okay. Starting pitcher Pablo Lopez has the MLB's best ERA at 1.05. That's an insane number. Jazz Chisholm didn't have a great batting average last year, but knocked in runs, stole bases, had some homers. This year he's off to a good start at .292, 6 homers, 25 RBIs. Jesus Aguilar's providing some power and some average. Jorge Soler, not a great average, but what he was brought in there was to add some power, and that's what he's doing. I can see them falling apart on offense as the season progresses. It's not a great offense. Their rotation, like I said, they got Lopez. I don't think he holds that 1.05 ERA all season. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Sandy Alcantara at 2.49. That's not bad. Jesus Luzardo has been pitching better. The shortcomings have been from Rogers and Hernandez, the 4th and 5th starters. Philadelphia has a powerful lineup. They got 5 guys with at least 6 home runs. 5 of them also over .285 with the batting average. Alec Baum surprisingly adjusting and hitting .313. I didn't expect that at all. I expected him to become a good hitter eventually, just not a .313 type of hitter. We'll see if he keeps that up. Gene Segura hitting .307. Bryce Harper hitting .305. The pitching is what hurts them. They're not terrible stats, but it's very average. Like I was saying about the A's, Aaron Nola is supposed to be the ace, and while he's not pitching terribly, he's also not pitching like an ace. He's got a .364 ERA. Kyle Gibson's at a .410. Zach Wheeler at .426. And as a staff, they're at .408. Surprisingly, Zach Eflin has been the biggest overachiever in this pitching rotation. You'd expect his ERA to be higher than the 3.9 it is now, so that's good to see there. Wheeler was a lot better last year. Overall, it's not a great rotation Atlanta's been a head-scratcher. They're starting to play a little better, but they're defending world champs, and they're in 4th place. They're just not hitting. The only everyday player hitting over 260 is Ronald Acuna, and he just came back a couple weeks ago. Their power numbers are still similar, but they're all very, very low batting averages, low on-base percentages. And so when there's no one to knock in, no one on base, when they hit those home runs and those extra base hits, it's not going to lead to scoring. I think they've been playing better lately and are about to turn things around and be a great help if Marcell Ozuna can get back to his power ways and get his batting average up a little bit and get hot with some home runs. Obviously, you expect some rust after he had such a long suspension last year. Max Fried and Kyle Wright have been their best pitchers. Ian Anderson's regressed a little bit, but he's pitching about as expected, and he's improving with each start. They need more from Charlie Morton. It's his 2nd worst ERA of his career and his worst since 2020. The Nationals don't expect much from them this year. Their pitching is below average at best and probably just bad. They got a 4.97 ERA, bunch of starters over 4.2. Juan Soto's their best player with Josh Bell and Cesar Hernandez also producing offense. They're getting nothing from Nelson Cruz. Nothing. And that's disappointing, but he has become an older player. So it could be a year for Washington to turn to their younger guys. The NL Central looks like the Brewers and the Cardinals again. Christian Yelich starting to return to his MVP form. They've also gotten good contributions from Hunter Renfroe, Willie Adames, Rowdy Tellez, all 8+ home runs. Tellez, from a power standpoint, it's about what you would expect. From an RBIs and batting average standpoint, it's a lot better than you would have ever thought he would have at this early in the season. They could use another bat in the outfield, but they're pretty deep on the infield. Corbin Burns is pitching like an ace. They're getting good performances from Hauser and Peralta. Lauer has a 2.6 ERA, is outstanding for him. The bad news is they're not getting good performances from a guy who has been their number 2 over the years, and Brandon Woodruff is at a 5.35 right now. And the bullpen's always going to be in good hands with Josh Hader at the back end. He hasn't given up a run this season. We know with the Cardinals what we get in Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. One of the young guys starting to pitch in, better average than I expected in speed and production. Tommy Edman, Tyler O'Neill, Dylan Carlson, Harrison Bader have been down in average. So has Paul DeYoung. But they still score a lot, and they're getting good pitching. Miles Mikolas has a 1.68 ERA. You got a 3.15 from Adam Wainwright, 3.06 from Dakota Hudson. So they got 3 good starters. That's good to have when you're trying to go to the playoffs and for a playoff series. Steven Matz has not worked out. His ERA is over 6. They've moved hard-throwing reliever Jordan Hicks into the rotation. He's starting to get used to that and pitch well in there. Their short relievers have been their Achilles heel so far, pitching-wise. Cubs are 3rd. You're not going to recognize much in their lineup. Patrick Wisdom, Ian Happ leading the way. They got this Suzuki guy hitting for power this year. Wilson Contreras is off to a pretty good start. Overall, the team just has a 235 average, and because everybody else just drops off from there, isn't good. Probably not going to be a competitive season. They've got bad pitching. Kyle Hendricks still hasn't gotten back to what he used to be. Marcus Stroman has an ERA over 5. Their best pitching performance has been Drew Smyly, who has a 3.64 ERA during most of his career, posting a 4.16. The Pittsburgh Pirates, I honestly thought could be the worst team in the MLB, and they still could be, but they're off to a better start than I thought. Daniel Vogelbach has provided the home run hitting. Brian Hayes has proven himself to be a great player after that extension. Ben Gamel has hit well for average. If they get Brian Reynolds to turn the corner and come back, that could be very good, but he's hitting just over 200. I think their pitching is awful, except for the way Jose Quintana is pitching right now. And offensively, they don't have enough there to hang around. Cincinnati was supposed to compete, but they're last in the majors in average at 217. Everybody's underachieving, and their pitching is just god-awful. The NL West, the Dodgers may still be the best lineup in baseball, top to bottom. Team in baseball, really, top to bottom lineup that'll crush you. Elite pitching staff. They're second in the majors in RBI and ERA. You got Freddie Freeman, Trey Turner, Mookie Betts leading the way right now. Some of the guys in the lineup are struggling. Those guys are picking up the slack. The entire starting lineup has double-digit RBIs, and they lead the majors in runs. Clayton Kershaw and Tony Gonsolin both have ERAs under 2. Walker Buehler is also under